Yes, right. Now, second topic, network services and protocols. Are we familiar with the word protocol? So, okay, our chat is good. Okay. Are we familiar with protocol? Yes, Pratibha, very good. HTTP is a protocol. Okay. So let me explain it with very simple example. When I say on the chat window, hi, then, okay, no, this has to be for everyone. Okay. If I say like, hi, now I'm saying hi to all of you. So what should be your reply? Hi, madam. Very good. Hello. Hi. Hello. So when I say hi, you know that you are supposed to say something. So you know what should be the reply. Instead of that, if someone say, when I say hi, if someone say something like that, something like this. So I'm saying hi, that person say hey Nat. So we are not following the rules of this communication, right? So when someone say hi, you're supposed to say hi or something like, when we do a communication, yes, I have a boyfriend, yes. So that is totally irrelevant. So I'm saying hi, and then, okay, so that is obviously what you get from the girls, right? When you say hi, yes. Good, okay. So you tried that, right? Trust me, it never works, right? Okay. So, protocol in the sense, students, it's a system or set of rules. So whenever we are sending some message to someone, we know what that person, there can be like, we expect that person to reply some kind of like relevant content. Like when someone say hi, it has to be either hi, how are you? Hi, after a long time. So there are expected reply, right, for the request. So when we are sending a request, we know what kind of response we are expecting. So protocol is a set of rules, system of rules. So we know what kind of request we are sending. For each and every request that we are sending, we know what should be the expected responses, right? So like one of you mentioned there, HTTP. It's a protocol. So HTTP protocol we use on the browser. So whenever we need to access a web page, we type the title of web page, we send it there, like just the way like we are saying hi, right? So we are using HTTP protocol with hi. We send the request. So when that through that protocol it goes, it knows what kind of a response it should send back to us. Response it knows, right? So whenever we type like facebook.com, it goes there and the reply comes, we can see the Facebook page. So HTTP protocol we use there. Let's say we want to send a mail. Can we do that with HTTP? We can't do that because to send mail, there are different set of rules, different protocol we have to use, right? We have to either use SMTP, right? Or we have used POP3 to do the mail thing. So we have number of different protocols whenever we are dealing with networks or computers. So let's see. So I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to ask about any definitions in the exams, right? So I don't want you to memorize all these definitions, but I want you to understand whenever what is a protocol. I don't want you to remember the definition, but I want you to express what is the protocol. I need you to know that, right? I hope you know the difference between that, right? So I hope that there's very interesting part in a movie called Three Idiots, how this injection motor or something works. Right, so I hope many of you watched that one, right? So if you try to remember, no, he's asking what is the machine, What is the machine? So the student say something that reduces the human effect or something that helps us to do the work. It's a machine. So he says this pencil box, it's a machine, and he said the zip also, it's a machine. You can open it and you can close it like that. He said that. But the teacher said, no, you have to say the definition of machine, right? So the definition of machine is, and what is actually machine? So just the way that I want you also not to remember the definitions, but understand what is that particular thing is, right? So this protocol is, so if you just try to remember it, protocol is system of rules that allows two or more entities to communicate, system to transfer information, like that. So you are not a Wikipedia, you're not talking Wikipedia, right? So you need to understand what is a protocol. So it's a set of rules we are using it to communicate in a system. So that's what you have to understand. So we have different protocols, different protocols for different types of services. So we have the service that we are very much familiar is web. So web normally it's HTTP protocol, but when we want to use a secure transmission through the web pages, we use HTTPS. So what is the difference between HTTP request and HTTPS request? Yeah. Madhusha also asked, what are the difference of HTTP and HTTPS? So I am also asking the same question. Not really, Ishan. They use the same ports. HTTP is secure. Yeah, that's true. HTTP is secure. How it happens? How this security thing happens? Very good, Pasindu. HTTP requests are encrypted. Encryption, Sankalpa. Yes, very good. Encrypted. Yes. Okay. Right. Okay, so what does this encrypted means? So sometimes when you, let's say you purchase something online, so all the pages are normally HTTP pages. Once you go to this page there, you're supposed to enter the credit card details. You can see it's HTTPS, right? So once you enter your credit card details there, obviously your father's supplementary card or something, right? I hope you don't have credit card, right? No, you are not allowed to have them, right? Yes, okay. So you enter this credit card details and everything. What happens, students, once you enter those details and once you click the submit button, all those details, they are going to convert into something that no one, like a human, cannot understand. Even the machine also cannot understand. It's converted into something totally different. Like let's say if I enter something like 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 9, 6, that is my credit card number. So this is my credit card number. So once I encrypt it, it became something like this. It has no meaning, right? So if someone in the middle, they hack this page or they try to get the information, they can only see something like this, which is not useful for them, right? They can't identify the credit card details or anything. So that is why we are using HTTPS. So whenever we are using HTTPS protocol, all the content that is there on the page, it converts into something gibberish that no one can understand. So once it go to their particular place that they're supposed to go, let's say Sampath credit card page, there it converted into the actual value, right? So that is the difference, HTTP and HTTPS. Okay. And then we have another protocol for file transfer. So whenever we have like, you know how we can host a website in a web server and then how we can transfer files here and there, we can download those files. We are going to talk about that later. So anyhow, like let's say to transfer files through a network, through a network, we are using a file transfer protocol. We call it FTP, file transfer protocol. And then to mail services, like I said earlier, we use POP3, SMTP, IMAP. And then for remote login, that is, for that we are using a different protocol which calls SSH, remote login protocol. So these are the different types of services, and under those services, these are the protocols we use. So apart from this, there can be some more protocols that I've been using, right? Okay, so you can find out whether there's any other protocols except these things that I mentioned here, right? Okay. Right. Third topic, web server and the browser. So yeah, no, there's no quiz for this one. Okay. Remote logging in the sense, student, like you can, since you have connected machines together, you can log in from your machine. Let's say I can log in with my machine and I can access to your machine and I can do some particular task. Like most of the time, like, like in our lecturers' PCs we have in our staff rooms, we are not allowed to install any softwares. We are not supposed to install any software. We don't have that admin permission. So let's say I need to install something new. So what I can do is I can ask ITSDP person. They don't have to come to my machine and do that. They can remotely log from their location and they can install the required software on my machine. So that is one remote login. So there are so many instances that we use remote login, gaming, banking, and all this stuff. So for that, we have to use a different protocol, different set of rules. Right. So third one, like TeamViewer, yes. Third one, our third topic, that is web server and the browsers. Okay. So I think you know. Do you know what is a web server? Do you know what is a web server? Answer. Web server? Yes. Okay, what is a web server? Then I'm not going to explain that. Okay, many people know that. Like Apache. Okay. Search engine is not a web server. Web server means data storage in cloud, not necessarily on the cloud. There can be any other physical machines as well. Okay, let me explain it like this. Okay. Let's say I am going to host a website, right? So I want to sell plants online. Right, so I'm going to start cactus or whatever, succulent or whatever shop online. Now I'm going to do this online. I'm going to have a website and then I'm going to sell it online, right? So like I can create a website since I'm familiar with all these web technologies and everything. So I create a website and then I can integrate a payment gateway and everything is done. Now it's on my machine. Then, can you all access to that? But I'm connected to the internet now, so you can access to my machine. Why can't you access my machine? So it's connected to the internet through the Wi-Fi. Why you can't access that? Can I make it possible? Because it's not hosted, okay. Yes, so I can make it accessible to you, like I can open several ports in my machine so that intruders can access to my machine. Okay, then what will happen? My machine will last only about maybe 10 seconds, right? So if I open the ports, yes, if I open the ports to access any people from the outside, like my local machine, what will happen? Like I don't know who get access to my machine. Right? The people can do anything on my machine. So we can't do that, right? So in that case, student, we have different servers. Yeah, there's a firewall and not said accessible, but we can open the firewall and we can let people to access our machine. And then we can forget about that machine as well. Right? Okay. So how we can host a website? To do that, we have a different servers. So those, let's say, huge computers with huge storage. We call them, yes, we have different web server machines. So if I want to host a website, first, of course, I have to create a website in my local machine. Then once I am done with that, I have to purchase a space to host my website. So it's like the web server also like our local computer, but it's a huge machine, right? It's a huge machine with huge in the sense, not bigger, like not big like an elephant, right? Like the storage and hard disk and the processing power, it's very high. Those are server machines, right? So I have to purchase a server machine. So they are giving me a location to put my website there. So once I put my website there, they open that website to outside people. So we, like what we are doing by like accessing the Facebook Facebook website is there on their server. They let us access to that particular folder actually, right? So it's like the way that all the files and things works on our local machine. So think about your C drive. So that is the web server C drive. So web server, for your C drive, you can have like hundreds of different folders. So different web servers have different folders. So those website owners, they can upload their content to that particular folder which is given to them, right? So once they upload that to them, you have to get a domain name for your website, right? So if you are getting a .lk one, you can purchase it from here, or you can, there are several websites you can purchase domain names. So you can get the domain name, and once you send that domain name to the web server, saying that this is the domain name. So whenever people type this one on the browser, it should redirect to the files that I upload on your server. So they make that setting. So once I upload all the files, and let's say I registered my website as a myplan.lk. So if you type myplan.lk, what will happen? Your browser will take you to the folder which I uploaded on the web server. So that is simply how it works, right? Okay, so browser. So whenever we want to access to a website or web application or internet, we need a browser to do that, right? So what is your favorite browser? Internet Explorer. No, I knew it. Internet Explorer is your favorite browser, right? No? Oh, Chrome, is it? Why is that? You don't like Internet Explorer? In Safari. Chrome 100%, of course. It has to be either Chrome or Safari, right? So yes, Opera, okay, right. So since most of you are saying it's Chrome, none of you are saying, okay, some of you are saying it's Firefox. Okay, I'll give a good guidance, right? Chrome Incognito, okay. Why you want to do secret browsing, Sadisha? With incognito? Okay. Right. So now always use Chrome. If you're using Windows, always use Chrome, right? So whenever you are doing this project, you are supposed to run that project, HTML pages. Sometimes the way it works on Firefox, it's different from the way it works on Chrome. So better to use Chrome, and then everyone can use the latest Chrome version. It's better because there are some elements, some parts in a website. It's perfectly work on Chrome, but not working on Firefox, right? So when long ago, when I was in the industry, actually I was in the industry about I'm not going to say how many years. Then you will get to know that I am old. Okay, so it's quite a few years. So that time we worked on some government projects, right? So we made some internal system for them, which is a web-based system. So that time actually Internet Explorer version was 8. But believe me or not, all this government office, all this machine, they had Internet Explorer 5, right? Right. So these people, they are not ready to change the Internet Explorer version. They are not let us to upgrade it from 5 to 8. Right? So we tried our best to make them convince to upgrade it to 5 to 8, but they did not. So what happened was, like, we have to develop two separate systems, one for Internet Explorer 5 and one for other browsers. So I hope now Internet Explorer has developed, and it has like not as developed as Chrome, and but now it's Internet Explorer 10 plus or something, right? Now I think it's quite better, right? So that time, yes, we had that kind of a situation. So when you also in the industry, you may meet a very interesting people, especially if you are doing like products to this government sector, like outdated people. So it's very funny though, right? So two different systems we developed and we charge 2 times. So that's a win-win situation. Okay. Right. So these are the browsers. Now you know which browser to use. That is Chrome, of course. You know, through these browsers, and now it's Edge. No, yeah. Okay. So I'm not touching Internet Explorer because I love it, right? With past experience, now this one also I'm not going to look at it, right? I'm going to cover it. Right. So we need browsers to access the websites, right? So to send HTTP and HTTPS request, we need browsers. So these are the browsers. We can get all these browsers, right? Good. Right. So usually client, right? Like let's say I'm going to connect with Facebook. I am the client, right? Now Facebook is my server. So what I need to do is I have to send a request. Okay, Facebook, I want to log in. Right? So user enters the address of the web server domain name on the browser. Then browser sends that request to the web server. So on Chrome, you type it and then it sends to the web server. So server responds with the client component. Okay, now that is important. So once you send the request to Facebook login page, it sends you the common login page. So that is the same page Facebook sends to every Facebook user. Okay? But once you type your username and password and then send the response back, what you get is your client component. Only your details. You get your details, I get my details. Right? So the server responds with our component. We are going to learn how it happens and how we find these details and how we get it and fetch it to the HTML page. We are going to learn all these things with IWTN. So last year we had this poll to check what is the students' favorite subject throughout the year. So it was IWT. So I hope this year also it will be IWT, right? Okay, right. So bragging, right? So the yes, then once you get that client component load onto your browser. That's how you can see your Facebook content. So it's very easy to understand, right? So browser runs the content and reads the content and renders. So once the client component is loaded to your browser read it and put it accordingly. So that's why the same response you are getting from Facebook, different browsers showcase it in different ways because the way that they see the component and they renders it, it's different, right? Okay, so that is how browser works. So web servers, we can say server is a kind of a software, like I said, like if you accessing to the Facebook website, that is the folder, actually all the Facebook related files and everything inside that folder. We are accessing to that. So it's a software. So it knows how to handle the request and response, which provides a specific service. Right? Now it's clear. Okay. So if I am going to create a website using PHP, I have to find a web server with Apache server. Right? So If I am going to do the development using Java, when I am do the purchasing of web server, I have to mention that I'm going to do Java development. I need a Tomcat server, right? Else, if I am going to do a website using .NET, ASP.NET, I need to have IIS server, right? So according to the technologies that I'm going to use to develop a website, the web servers that I need to pick is different, right? So for this IWT model, since we are doing the scripting language, we are going to learn and we are going to do it with PHP. So it's Apache service, the one that we need. Right? But when you are doing a Java applets kind of website, if you go to host it, so your hosting provider, you have to request, I need a Tomcat server to run this one because I'm using it, I'm developing it using Java. So you can't host a PHP website on an Apache server, right? So keep that in mind. Okay. Do you have questions? Course web we have Apache because everything that we have on this course web and all we have PHP, so it's obviously Apache. Even Facebook, it's Apache. Facebook developed using PHP. Okay, so like that, whenever you are getting question, you can ask them, right? Because physically, since we are not contacting, and even though I ask you to drop a mail and ask these questions, I know you probably you forgot one, and then. Yes, it's they say you can concentrate on one thing about 20 minutes max. The human brain is like that, right? So that doesn't mean that we should have 20 minutes lecture, right? What it means is for one particular thing, if I'm explaining you something, you can concentrate only 20 minutes only on about that particular thing. Right, so after 20 minutes, I have to refresh you, like something, some story or some activity, right? So, yeah. Can you give examples for Java and .NET? What kind of examples do you want? The question is not clear. Okay, you can ask it again. Okay, so all these web server students, we use HTTP and HTTPS protocols, right? They know how to do the communication using HTTP and HTTPS. Now, when you're going to the third year, when you are supposed to do a subject called distributed systems, I'm also doing some lectures on that. So first question that you are getting is what is a protocol, right? So if you couldn't answer to that question, okay, let's see. Let's wait another year and see, right? Okay. Right. So normally these web servers and us, that is a client and server architecture. We call it client and server. We have a server and then we access to that server either using PC or smartphone or using laptop. So these are the client devices and we have a server, right? Okay. Right. So normally when it comes to, now this here students, I'm actually focusing on web development, not about all the other development because there are plenty of other languages with high level scripting and markup. But when it comes to web development, basically the high level language, that means like Java, C and C++, what is the difference? High level languages? Why we call them high level? You have to compile them, right? You have to convert it to machine language, and then only you can run it, right? So if you are developing or doing something using Java, C or C++, you have to compile it and run. But when it comes to scripting languages like JavaScript, PHP, Python, you don't need to. You can just write the code and you can run it. Machine can understand scripting language, right? So that is the difference. So the compile language, you have to compile it and you can run it. Scripting language, you don't have to. Code itself, it works. and you don't have to compile it. So what is the advantage or disadvantage? The compile language, since we compile it and run it, it's more secure than scripting language, right? So if we have this scripting languages, like we are not converting it to machine code, we are just running it, right? So it's visible. So everything, every code that we did there, it's visible. JavaScript, the HTML code and all these things, it's visible since it's not compiling. Markup language, third one, XML, HTML, XHTML. They are actually like, even though we say like it's a kind of language, like you can't do any kind of development thing using XML or HTML or XHTML. The purpose of having markup language is like just to display things, right? So HTML pages, we just display image, description, title, table, all these things you can just display, but you can't do any arithmetic things, or you can't make any function works by using these markup language. But by using scripting language and high-level language, you can do that, right? So you have to keep that in mind. We are going to talk more about XML and HTML later, to briefly understand this. High-level languages, the difference is you are going to compile it and run it. Scripting language, you don't have to compile it, you can just run it. Markup language, it's not, you can't develop anything using these languages, but you can just display things. Displaying and developing, two different things, right? We are going to learn all these things. Now, things that we mentioned here, we are going to learn under IWT are XML, HTML, JS, and PHP. Plus MySQL, it's not here. So we are going to learn 5 different languages in one module within 13 weeks, which includes one final year project, right? Okay, so you have to get ready for that, right? So every day, like you can't wait, like last minute you can't do this one. So if you don't know HTML well, when the time we are learning CSS, oh, it's not there, CSS, styling part, then you will be stuck. Once you are going to learn about JavaScript, at that time, you need to know how to create a web page using HTML and how to style that web page using CSS, right? When the time we are teaching you PHP, probably your 6th or 7th week, at that time, you have to be very much familiar with JavaScript, CSS, and HTML, right? Once you know all these things only, you can work with database, MySQL queries and all. So these things are connected together. You can't have one thing without having the other, right? So you can't wait, like these, everything that we teach in this IWT module students interconnected. So you can't learn CSS without learning HTML. You can't learn JavaScript without knowing HTML and CSS, likewise, right? So please go to the lab sessions, right? So you will be doing the labs with the instructors there itself. So you can do the coding at that time, right? So you can have hand-on practice, just like the way that you are doing lab at the campus. Right? So make sure you go there, right? So there will be a recording. No issue for that. Recording will be there. But it's better to go there and learn at that time, right? So normally when we are having recording, what we do is like we can see the recording and we postpone. But you have like about 4 or 5 subjects as I remember. So all these subjects, most of these subjects, you have these labs, tudes and lectures, right? So you can't postpone to do that. So please follow the timetable. It's for your own good, right? So within 1 week, if you follow all things, only the things that you are not clear, then you have to give additional time, right? Otherwise, you will get stuck, right? Okay. Right. Our last and final topic for today's lecture, markup language. We are supposed to do a tutorial as well. Seems like we are running out of time. Let's see. Right. Markup languages. So like I said, markup languages are not a development language, right? We use XML or HTML just to display content. First, we'll see XML. XML stands for Extensible Markup Language, right? Here the E is dead, silent, not dead, E is silent, XML, Extensible Markup Language, right? Now, with XML, you can't create any website, or you can't create content. You can't do anything with XML as such. What you can do with XML is you can store data in XML file, or you can send data, transport data using XML file. So normally, I think you know, normally to store data, we use databases, right? We store data in a database. But without having a database, let's say we have like about 100 records only. Like we need to store like only 100 student details in kind of inside a file, right? And let's say for this IWT, all the student details I need to store in an XML file, right? So each year I should give that details to our development team. Let's say we have a separate software development team, no? So I have to give that to that development team each year. So what I can do is I can have an XML file. Inside that file, I can store all of your data, like your name, your grade, what you got for IWT, your IT number, your mobile number. So all these details I can store in this XML file. Advantage of using XML file to store data is, students, let's say our software development team, they have this application developed using Java. By using Java, they can read that XML file. Java code can read that XML file, and they can just get that data from that XML file through a program. Let's say they have this development process done in PHP. PHP also, through PHP also, we can read XML files. So XML we use to store data. XML code or XML file is accessible by Java, C, PHP, any language they can access, they can read XML data, right? And also to transport data. Let's say I want to send your student record to, so I want to get some records from Metro, and I want to give that like each day after the lecture, I have to submit the attendance. So I can have all these attendance on the XML file, and then end of the lecture, I can send it to here. So I can transport that data. So from their system, they can just read that file and they can get that data into their system, right? Simple as that. So why we use XML? Store or transport data. We can read it. So here you can see example of XML file. So we have a XML, like normally we have to mention the version as 1.0. Without this, in Chrome it works, but some browsers without this first line it won't work. So first, these tags, students, in XML, you can use whatever the tags you like. There's no predefined tags in XML. Right? Let's say you want to have a set of students' name in XML file. So you can start it with students. Then first record is name of that student. Now here we have a quiz, right? So starting with quiz, then sequence 1, first question is this, then question close, answer is this, answer close. Let's see how we have to arrange these tags. But what you have to remember is, there's no predefined tags in XML. XML used to store and transport data. Both human and machine can read XML, right? And it's a case sensitive. It's a case sensitive. Let's say what that means. Okay. XML. The main and the only component of XML is called an element. So XML only has elements. Very easy, no? You don't have to remember any tags. You can come up with your own tags, right? But you have to be careful. So if it's a name, make sure that you use tag name as name. If you use here like banana, open banana, close banana, still it works. But whenever you are using tags, in not only in XML, any place in the development process, make sure to use a meaningful name, starting from variable name, function names, right? So you have to use meaningful names. Right. So when it comes to an XML element, you have three components. You have start tag, you have end tag, and then you have a component or body in between. Right? So this start tag and this end tag, it has to be same, exactly same, case sensitive. You can't even make it this one as a simple tick, or you can't start these tag names with numerical values. You can't do that, right? So these all can be capital, all can be simple, but the starting name and ending name both has to be same, like this. Okay, so these are some rules you have to follow when you're writing XML elements. Like I said, case sensitive. So capital symbol matters. So if you have this as module starting with capital M, if you have this close tag with simple M, once you run this XML, it gives an error, right? So see this now, this IWT is the content that you are going to save on this XML document. So starting tag is module. So you open it, peek open, and then you have to close it here and then close it there, right? Okay, so element name must start with a letter or underscore. You can start this element name with letter or underscore, but not a numeric, not with a numerical value. So these things you have to remember them, because these kind of things are the ones that comes with MCQs, right? So there are so many MCQs we can create with to check whether you know how to have like correct XML elements. Okay. Then element names can contain letters, digits, hyphens, underscores, and everything, but you can't have them as a first element, first letter. You can have it at the middle. So you can have M1 ODUL cross M1 ODUL. That's correct, but you can't have it as one module. It's wrong. So you can't have numerical value digits as a first letter. So there can be spaces. You can't have spaces as inside the element name. Any name can be used, no words are. So there's only one reserved word in XML, right? Okay, that is XML, right? One reserved word in XML, that is XML. Without using that, you can use any letter. So these are some best practices. I think you can read this one. I'm not going to explain this one, right? So some best practices when you're writing XML. Okay. Okay. I'll come to the previous slide once I explain this one, right? So this is very simple XML file. Let's say I am going to store like 10 persons detail in an XML file. So in that case, what I can do is I can have that person, someone, person. I open person, I call person. Let's say I have like 10 people inside my XML file. So what I have to do is I copy it 10 times. So first person ID equal 1, that is someone. So second person need to have a different ID 2 and different name. Let's say comma. So like that, let's say I have 100 records. I can have 100 records one by one like this. What you have to remember is if you are using the tag open as person, every tag has to be person, right? You can't change it in the middle, because once you send this XML to someone else, let's say they have their system, we say, okay, we have this XML. You can read person tag. With that person tag, you can catch the name of that person. So that is the information we are giving to them. So what they do, they just access this XML by using, let's say in Java, they use this person dot name or any conversion that inside their, let's say they are having it inside a loop. So they are using it like this. So you can't change it in the middle. So once this loop is going on, once he sees something is not start with person tag, it will give an error, right? Okay. 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 So this encoding part, that is the declaration. So we are saying the version is 1.0, encoding is UTF-8, right? So some Unicode transformation format inside in some browsers we need that, but some we don't need. Without this one also it works. But when we are writing XML in your labs, make sure that you have this line as well. So this has to be the first line of your XML file. Right. So here, this is the starting tag. This ID. So this is the element. In this element, it has a attribute. Here it has one attribute. The attribute name is ID. There can be several attributes. ID is equal to 1. Type is equal to male. Like that. If we say like that, then we have two attributes in this person element. Now, in this XML file, we have one element. Element name is person. And that element has one attribute. That attribute is ID. Clear? Okay. So this attribute value always quoted. It has to be inside a double quote. Either single or double quote. It works. Okay. So like I said, there can be multiple attributes. So ID is 1, age is 35, value of that element is someone. We are closing the element like this. So let's say we have records of 10 people, but some people we don't have age, but some people we have the age. So in that case, how we can do it? Okay. Here, these elements, now earlier we have only one element, person. Inside that person element, we have attributes. Now let's say we have many information about that particular element. We can't have that number of attributes inside. So in that case, what we can do, we can nested that element. We can nested. So this person element, we are going to nest it, right? We are going to have sub-elements of that particular element. So this person element, we keep ID as an attribute, but we have some more details about that person element, like first name, last name, age, let's say like school, mobile number, email, like that. We have so many details about that particular person. So in that case, like this, you can have that element nested. So here, see this clearly, student. First name, there's no space in between. So starting tag is first name. So the closing tag has to be first name with close, last name, last name. Okay. For this person, Samandi Silva, there's no value for age, right? For the second person, this is another Samandi Silva. It has to be someone else, right? No, this is Samandi Silva. It has to be Kamal Silva, right? It's a mistake. So Kamal Silva, we know the age is 28, so we can mention it here. But Samandi Silva, we don't know the age. So in that case, either you can keep it with start age, close age, without any value in between, or like this. Both are correct. Both are correct. So either you can have age, or just age. Both are correct. So this also correct, this also correct. So best practice is doing the second one, right? That means when the time we have like 100 of records, let's say only 1 or 2% doesn't have some values for these elements, we can't just remove it. Like you can't just remove that one because it doesn't have a value. What will happen if you do that? So when the Java program goes on that loop, it goes to the person, first name, second name, last name, then it finds that the age is there or not. So if we deleted it, then it finds that age element is missing. But if we don't have value inside that age element, that means it's empty. So that's okay. There will be no error, right? So in that case, you have to remember, in some cases, there can be no values, but you have to make sure to display that programmatically, it should be identified there's no value. Human can just see this one, and if there's no value for age, we can understand that. But if it's in the program, you can't do it like that. Okay. So I hope it's clear about this basic XML tags. Okay. So this person tag in here, we call it, it's the root element of this XML, root element, right? So these names, you need to be a bit familiar with these names. So if you want, about XML, we are not going to do much about XML actually during the lectures because for this website development, sun is on my face, right? Okay, so this website development and the project and all, we are not going to use much of XML. Why I thought of having XML in this first lecture, student, we need XML in every places. Not only for web development, every other subject, most of this other subject, you are working with XML. So I just want you to have a very brief and clear idea about XML, when to use XML, and what are the basic things of XML. So you can refer to IWTN XML pages. There are some good examples where you can practice XML, and they have these quizzes also. Not as good as my quizzes, but there are some quizzes, right? So you can practice them as well. So, so next week, let's have a quiz for XML part. So we other part also for that. Yes, LAN we did quiz. No, for this XML and HTML part next week, let's have a quiz. So go through these slides, and if you want to know more, you can always go to this W3 school and freshen up. Okay. So homework question 2. How you can write XML code to store following personal data. Okay, I'll give you 5 minutes. You can type this one on Notepad and copy it and paste on the chat. Let's see who are the first 5 to get this one correctly. Type it on the Notepad. It doesn't matter. You can use Notepad++, Sublime, whatever the browser you are compatible with. Please use that. Write XML code to display this personal data. Let's have a root element as person. So you have 4. Either you can use this 4 as a 4 sub element, or some you can use as attributes. So come up with the XML block to have this personal data, and also you can fill it with your personal data so that I can read the names who comes first, right? I'll give you 5 minutes. Starts now. Okay. I got one correct one. Sugan. I'm really sorry. How can I pronounce that name? Sugandha? Can you just unmute and tell me how you pronounce your name? I'm really sorry. I don't know how to pronounce it. And the answer is correct. Do we have
Sugandha.
Sugandhan?
Sugandha.
Sugandha. Okay, Sugandha. Yes. Very good. First one with correct answer. Perfectly correct answer. Very good. And then Damindu. Root element is missing, Damindu. And then other parts are correct. Sugandha. Danuja, Danuja. No, Danuja, of course, the Senanaika College. Yes. Root element is missing. Okay. Okay. What's this? Sayumi. Yes, perfect, correct. Okay, then we have Pratibha. Yes, Pratibha. Very good. Perfectly correct XML code. Sankalpa. So Sankalpa, first name also Sankalpa, last name also Sankalpa. So we have one prime minister with the first two times he's pronouncing his name, right? Like Brutus Gali. Okay. And then Senara. It's very good. Senara, your one also, we don't have a root element. So without root element, like if you have like only about yourself, your personal data, then this is correct. But if we have like 10 persons data, we have to have a root element. So to distinguish different persons, like if we have 10 person 1 is you, and then the second person, again the person text start and close like that. Sayuri, yes, you are one also correct. You can use data, person, whatever you feel like correct, right? So, but like I said, so this is totally correct, Sayuri. Like you can use whatever the name you want as a root element, but make sure whenever you are doing coding, especially to use meaningful names. Right? So this is correct. Okay, so yes, I'm quite happy you all seems get that correctly. Ishan's also correct. Sasindhu's also the root element is missing. Oh, that's okay. You can. Okay, Sankalpa Gunasekar. Okay, so it's not Sankalpa, it's Sankalpa Gunasekar. Okay. Okay, so here this Damindu's one you can see inside that name element you can have as Damindu Thimesha with space. Inside value you can have it with space, but your element names you can have it with space. So Damindu's one also root element missing. Okay. Great. So Sanuka's one also correct. Ishara's one correct. Hesham's one's also correct, but once you say root element as name, like meaningfully, it's a bit confusing, right? But the code wise, it's correct. Kavya's one also you need to have. Yes, so normally we are supposed to have one lecture on the course web. So probably this is the lecture that I'm going to upload to the course web. There are several people are doing the same lecture for a week. So others lectures also there will be on the lecture capture, but the link and the course web will have this lecture. So this is the group 1 actually. So you are the IT student group 1, first group. So this lecture will be there on the Facebook. Okay, I have 25 messages. So very good students. Seems like all of the answers are correct. Okay. Now see, now like we know XML, now again you don't have to study this, right? Okay, so okay, root means, student, like let me explain it quickly. So root means like this root element. Like if I'm going to have like if I'm going to have like 10 persons record, now this person is my root element, and inside that person root element I have several sub elements like first name, so these are my sub elements, right? So I have let's say here. So like that, this is one record, right? So I'm going to have 100 records now. So like that, so different persons records. So this ID need to be changed, and then these names, they are going to change. You are paired it, right? Okay. So like that, you can have different number of persons in here. So this person are the root element. So you have to have this root element clear. Like if you have only one record in this particular XML sheet, then you don't need to have this one because you only have these 3 records. But since you are going to have number of persons records in this one, you need to have a root element clearly mentioned here, right? So I mentioned IDs here because I like to identify different persons with this ID. You can do that, right? Okay. Okay, you can add the phone number, right? Okay. Right. Then we have to move to HTML as well. Okay, it's almost 2 hours. It's our tutorial time, but let's finish this HTML part and quickly move into the tutorial part, right? Right. Now, XML, like I said, you just store data and you just transfer data with XML. So you have these records, and now you know there's no predefined tags. You can have your own tags. Only thing is that you can't use the word XML as tag, right? That's what you have to remember. So that's about XML. That is our first markup language. Second one is HTML. Don't worry, we are not going to learn everything about HTML today. This is just the introduction part, right? We are going to learn more about HTML the next lecture. Very interesting, like web page creating. It's very interesting. So you'll enjoy that. I'm pretty sure about that. Okay, so HTML is the standard language, student. That is what we use to develop web page. So all these web browsers, they know HTML. The Chrome, Safari, Internet Explorer know it little, right? So other browsers, they know it well, right? So they know whenever we write code in HTML, browsers identify that. If we say bold this code in HTML, when we run it on the browser, it does that. And so browsers and HTMLs are very good friends. So they know everything about each other. Right. So HTML, so not like XML, we can't use our own codes, tags in HTML. They have predefined elements, predefined attributes and values for that attributes, right? So there are things that you have to remember when you're writing HTML code. Right. So HTML, you can just create your HTML page and you can save it as .html. Then once you double click it, it opens on the browser, right? You can just leave it on the browser. You can see the output of that page. So page to page, when we are navigating from HTML pages, you can use anchors, like you know that, right? So these hyperlinks, we call them. Once you click that one, you can go from one page to another page. So all these things are related with HTML. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Okay. So now this you have to remember. When you're writing an HTML page, right? So you are going to display some set of content on the browser. First line is the version doctype HTML. Like I said, even though you don't have this line, your page will perfectly work, right? So, but these are the standards way of writing this page. So in your exam, if you do not write this one, your marks will not get reduced, right? So, but it's a good practice. If you are writing HTML, start with this doctype HTML. Right. So you have to say to the browser, this is the HTML page. In order to do that, you have to say HTML. Right. Once you open this HTML tag, same time, make sure you close it. Right. So like this. Yeah. When you're writing your HTML, here. So when you start with HTML and close it, then you are going to type the things intermediately after this, right? So once you open your HTML page, then you can have title of your page. Now students, not like XML, you can't have your own tags. This title has to be title, right? So HTML has to be HTML. Then in HTML page, you can have separate parts, head, and then you have tag for body. So these are the basic HTML tags that you have to remember when you are creating an HTML page, right? So what you write inside this body tag is only going to be displayed on the browser. Like, so we always have to say in our first program, hello world, right? So I have it inside body tag, and then I open a paragraph tag. P tag is for para. You close it. Right? So once you create this one, save it, desktop, let's say test.html. Save. Okay, so once I so here I save it on the desktop. So once I save it as .html, it saves with the whatever the browser version that I have. It saves as like sadly it's yeah, it's let's go with OpenView. So if I go with Google Chrome, I hope you can see. Can you see the Chrome? No, I think. Okay, see. Hello world. I type this one inside. I type this one inside body tag, hello world, and on title I mention as welcome. So title goes here, the content inside the body, it goes there. So if you see the address on the browser, it's our absolute path, right? Where our file is, so it's on desktop, text.html. So you can save it as HTML or HTM, both will work. Yes. So those are the basic tags. So whatever we type inside the head tag, it's not going to be displayed on the web page, right? So we are going to learn why we need these head tags later, but keep in mind whatever the things we type inside the body is only going to display on the browser, right? So this header details actually is going to contain some details about the page, right? So let's discuss that later once we are going to learn about style sheets, meta tags, meta description. We are going to talk about that. Okay. In HTML, there are a set of elements that you need to remember actually, right? So structural element in the sense, this page, you can have a header, you can have footer, and then you can have navigation like buttons, and then you can have a side. So we are going to learn all these things during our lab classes. And then for text element, you have different elements. Like for headings, you can use H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. So these fonts, these headings, they itself has different sizes, different font sizes. So if you're going to insert a paragraph, you are supposed to use P tag. If you want to break line, you are using break. So these elements, HTML elements, students, you have to remember them, right? So if you use Notepad++, Sublime, so there are, yeah, it automatically comes. But I prefer, it's good if you can work with Notepad, but I'm not going to force you on that, right? You can use whatever the editor you are familiar or comfortable with. So if you want to add image to a particular HTML page, let's see how we can do that. Okay. So here, let's download image. Let's download this slit logo. So I want to have this slit logo. SLIIT underscore logo. Let's see. It's a JPG file. You need to know the file type. So I want to have that image. You can see my code, right? So what I do, I have this slit logo image and my file in the same location, desktop. So I just have to mention the image name here. So once I have it there, save it. Ta-da! That image comes. Right? So how you can insert an image? IMG, SRC, image name. You have to mention the correct image type. So this is a JPEG image, so it's JPG. Right. So let's say I create a new folder here. So they're not giving me permission to create folders. I create a new folder called images, and I'm going to put that image inside that images folder. Right? Now my image is inside the image folder. Now once I go to this test file, I say there's an image called slit_logo JPG in this location. Do we have image in this location? Do we have image? No, that image is inside the images folder. So we have to specifically say that. We have to specifically say that where is this image actually? Earlier it's there. Now it's inside that images folder. So we have to say that image is inside the images folder. It works, right? So if we move this out, let's say. Now there's no image inside that images folder. See? So you have to make sure you have to correctly mention where is that particular image is whenever you are using the images, right? And also, even though I'm doing this one on the desktop, now you are going to start your project, student. Create a folder. Let's say your project name is online store, something like that. So create a folder inside your D drive, name it as online store. Inside that folder have your first file. So your first file, your first HTML file, it has to be index. It has to be like, you have to name it as index.html. That means, like, let's say I have a folder called my pro, and then I have my first file and my images there, right? So once you go inside this my pro, you need to have this index file and images file there. Right, so why I ask you to name it as index, let's learn that later. That is like, if you go to the Facebook, you don't type facebook.com/index.php, but still the index page comes, right? So you don't have to specifically say that. Normally, when we are creating a website, the first file or the root file, it is index.html or index.php. So this automatically gets that file, right? So make sure that your first file, you name it with index.html, right? Okay. So this is the first page. So you have your HTML, you have your head, you have your body, and then you close your HTML. So here, the last line, HTML need to be closed, right? Mistake. Okay. Can you see the mistake? Okay. Find out the mistake in this code and type it on the chat. There's a mistake. Can you see the mistake? No? Or you can't see the screen? There's a huge mistake in this code. Yes. HTML close tag is not close, closing tag, very good. So it has to be HTML close, right? It's very good. So HTML close tag, it has to be like this, very good. Okay. So this we discussed. Then sometimes sometimes it's you are supposed to display a list of elements like bullet points, right? So how you can do that in HTML? So very easy. So you start your list with UL and then li. So all the elements you have to start with li and close li. Start li, close li. Start li, close li. Then you close UL. So when you're writing this code, how you have to do that? First you write start UL, close UL, then you press enter, then you type li and then close li, then only you type the content in the middle. So in that, if you practice that way, you won't miss any element when you are writing the code. So there are 3 different ways of having these elements. So if you want dots, you can use ULLI. If you want numerical value, you can use OLLI, right? And then very important part with HTML, how we can add a table into a HTML page. It's very easy. So you have to start it with table tag, table. Then you have to mention the border. So if you do not mention the border, you can see the table without any border. So you mention the border as 1. Then your first row, you have 1 row here. Then you have 3 headings. So TH stand for heading. So TH. So 3 heading. Then you close the row. Then you can have second row, that is open TR and then TD. TD. So TH means the heading of the table. TD means the columns. Each columns you can write it one by one after another. Right. So I need to do some. Okay. And also you can have like background colors, or you can have font colors into your elements. So if you want to have font color, what we are using is style color. If you want to use background color, we have to style background. So I am not going to explain much about these things, but instead let's do this small quiz and let's see whether you have these analytical skills, like without explain them in advance. Just by looking at them, let's see whether you can identify. Are you ready for the quiz? Second quiz? Okay. Take your phones. Okay, now you have to type mentimeter.com on your mobile. Let me use it. Menti.com. 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 Type this. We getting it? Menti.com. Then you're supposed to enter the code, right? Code is this 3134070. Okay, so you can see HTML code, right? Then you have a body. Inside that you have body. Then H1 means like the largest font size. H1 is the largest font size. So it says the background color of that text is blue. Color is yellow. That means font color of that text is yellow, but background color is blue. Right? Then you have a paragraph. That paragraph's background color is red. And the content of that paragraph is bold and italic. Right? So the second paragraph, background color has to be red and the content of that paragraph has to be bold and italic. Bold tag also there, italic tag also there. Then third paragraph, the font size is H2. Background color has to be green. Background color is green. Which one is the correct output? So you have to click that output on your mobile phone. You can select that one, right? So 4 options are given. Are we done? Shall we move to the next question? Anyone need more time? "91 participants are there. Okay, let's see. Okay, can you try this one as well? Yes, for that one, answer is first one actually. Most of you got that correct. I think I did some mistake. I couldn't. Shall we try this question as well? Is that a correct XML output? Again, refresh your page, Mentimeter page, Menti.com, refresh that one, and then you can try this. Can you see this one? Okay. Okay, I hope you can see my screen, right? So first one, is this a correct XML output? 60% of you say no, 23% say yes, and then 2 of you say no. I don't know. So what do you think? You think it's wrong? You think it's wrong, right? Okay. Actually, it's a correct XML output, right? Okay, correct XML code. Let's see that again. So the second one, which we did first, like 83% of you picked the correct answer. That's correct. Even though you are not teached about this background color styles and everything, just by looking at that. So the first one, that H1 tag, the color of that is yellow. So then in that case, second one and third one, option 2 and option 3, you can forget about that. So only option 1 and option, so this is only about option 1 and option 4. Then the second para, it says the background color of second paragraph is red. So in that case, you can just forget about option 4 and go for option 1. Clear? Okay, so these kind of MCQ questions you will be getting for your end exam. Right. So I think, yes, I think we ended our lecture, right? Did we came to the last lecture slide? Okay. Yeah. So today, students, starting from the data networks and internet, we talk about what is a network, and then we move on to a computer network and data network. Then we talk about internet and what are the different internet or network types we discuss, and then different protocols, their examples. Then we moved on to web server and different browsers. Finally, we talk about markup languages, XML and HTML. So we, like, within these 2 hours and like 10 minutes time, we learned a lot. So I'm really happy that you participate well on these quizzes and all. So we'll be having this kind of sessions every week, so that I want you to be like very actively involved with this content. So that's how you can like engage with the lecture. So the tutorial, we are supposed to do the tutorial as well today, but I think since you seems to be pretty good at this HTML and all, I want you to do the tutorial at home, right? So the tutorial one, you are like, let me share you the tutorial. Okay. So this is the tutorial you are supposed to do by yourself. So actually I was planning to do some parts of this at the during the lecture with you, but since I don't see that we have much time to do that one, and I'm also sure that you are also tired. Okay, so try to do this one as much as possible. So first thing, next week what we are going to do is we are going to discuss this one. So you can share what you have done. Yeah, you can share it, your answers, we can share it, and then the difficulties you came with this one. So there are some new things you have to practice with this one, how you can have image like this, and the table, even though I roughly explain about the table thing, we didn't do any coding with the table, so you can try this one. So try to do it by yourself. If you couldn't find the correct tags like this underline and how you can have, so here there's something. So I don't need to have this image in this side. If you can have this image just after this email address, that's also fine. No need to have these alignments, because next week we are going to learn how we can have these kind of styles to our website. How we can add CSS, we call them styles, CSS. So how we can style our HTML page. So next week we are going to learn that. So before that, if you can complete this one. So if you complete this one by your own with the help with W3 School, that means you know your HTML. And then I'm very confident to continue with CSS. Right? So do it by yourself. So next week onwards, students, you will be having your labs. Like I said, make sure that you participate. You are assigned lab. Please go to the correct lab, right? Because like not like in the lectures. So these lectures, you can join up to 300 people. There's no problem with that. But for the labs, you can join up to 60 people, right? So if you go to someone else's lab, and then that person who is assigned to that particular lab is not able to join that one, then there will be a problem, right? So I hope by now you know which group you are in, right? Anyone who doesn't know which group you belongs to, which lab to go, which lecture to go? Anyone? Oh, thank you, Sanku. You're very kind. Anyone who doesn't know which lab to go, which group you belongs to? No, it seems, right? You all know by now. Please go to the correct lab. Any issues you have with labs, lab sheets, anything that you are not clear, you can, no, not on campus. Not on campus. Your Zoom links will be shared on the course web according to the timetable. Please go to the correct lab, right? So the lab timetables are not still there on the course web. Your instructors will do that and they handle that. So like I said, these Zoom links for labs, those are created with their personal accounts. So maximum 60 people can join the lab as far as I know, not like the lectures. So make sure you go to the lab, but in any case, if you missed a lab, you can just check with that instructor and you can join with that Zoom. So check the course web and then go to the lab. Before you go to the lab, so next Monday onwards, we will be starting the labs now. Download the lab sheet. Lab sheet will be available on Sunday probably. Download the lab sheet. Just read it. Even though you don't understand anything, just read it and then go to the labs. Don't just go there and download the lab sheet and try to do that one. So now since you know something about HTML, you know some basic background about XML, hopefully you can understand what you're supposed to do on the labs, right? So prepare and go. Okay, so do you have any questions regarding this lecture or anything that you are not clear about? We have 15 minutes time. You can ask anything on the chat window. So others who are fine with that, you can leave the meeting. Thank you very much for your patience, and you have been very nice set of students. No one shouted, no one disturbed. So I really appreciate that. Please continue these good qualities throughout the your university life, right? So let's all meet next week. Thank you very much. Anyone have questions? You can wait and ask those questions using the chat. I will be here till 5:30.